Welcome to the Global War Watch Network. Today we're looking at something pretty intense unfolding in Libya. It involves Sudanese migrants, but it's really much bigger than just one incident. It pulls together threads of conflict, displacement, politics, real instability. Our aim here is to kind of cut through the noise, look at the sources, and really get a handle on the what, the why, and maybe the what next, so you can quickly grasp what's going on.
Okay, let's get into it. So, the thing that really caught everyone's eye was this action by authorities in eastern Libya. A huge deportation, right? Sending Sudanese migrants back home, back into that war zone.
Yeah.
That's quite a step.
It is, yeah, a very significant step. The numbers themselves are pretty stark. We're talking about 700 Sudanese individuals. They'd been detained in central and southeastern Libya, and then just last Friday, deported by land back to Sudan.
Wow, 700.
Yeah.
And what was the official reason given for something that large scale?
Well, the directorate handling this, the Directorate for Combating Illegal Migration, they put out a statement that some deportees had infectious diseases. They mentioned hepatitis, even AIDS. Okay.
Others were apparently deported because of criminal convictions, or, and this part's quite vague, for unspecified security reasons.
Security reasons with no details.
None provided in the sources we have? No. And you have to see this in context. This is absolutely part of a bigger push, an ongoing crackdown campaign. It's happening in eastern Libya, which, as you know, is controlled by forces loyal to Khalifa Haftar.
Right, Hifter's area. So this isn't random. It fits into a pattern, this larger crackdown, this push against human trafficking. Tell us more about that. What does it look like on the ground?
It's pretty active. I mean, just last week, the Coast Guard, Haftar's Coast Guard in the east, they intercepted a boat off Tobruk. Had about 80 migrants on it trying to get to Europe.
Okay, so sea interceptions.
Yeah, and raids, too. They're hitting suspected trafficking hubs across the east and south. There was a notable one earlier this month in Agdabia. That's maybe, 800 kilometers east of Tripoli. They raided a warehouse there. Found 104 Sudanese migrants inside.
In a warehouse.
Yeah, held there, including women and children. They were freed in that raid.
Wow. That detail, people held in a warehouse. That really paints a picture. Okay, so this brings us to the bigger question. Why Libya? Why has it become this central pathway for migrants heading towards Europe?
It's a tough combination. Geography, for one. Look where Libya is. It's a natural point for people fleeing conflict, fleeing poverty from across the Middle East, across Africa. They see it as a route to, hopefully a better life. But then there's the instability. More than 10 years of it now. Traffickers thrive in that kind of chaos. They smuggle people across Libya's borders, and it borders 6 countries. You've got Chad, Niger, Sudan, Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia. It's porous.
And specifically the Sudanese connection. Why so many Sudanese people caught up in this right now?
That's directly linked to the conflict back home in Sudan. Since April 2023, you've had this brutal street fighting between the military and the paramilitary RSF. It just plunged the country into chaos. So thousands upon thousands fled.
And Libya was one of the places they fled to.
Exactly. It became a refuge of sorts, or at least a transit point. The numbers are huge. The UN's migration agency, the IOM, estimates there are over 240,000 Sudanese migrants just living in Libya right now.
250,000 people. Just from Sudan. That's staggering.
It really shows the scale of the displacement from that war.
Okay, so we have external factors pushing people towards Libya, like the war in Sudan. But what about Libya itself? What is it about the internal situation there that makes it such fertile ground for trafficking and complicates everything?
Yeah, you really have to go back to 2011. The uprising against Gaddafi, the NATO intervention, it toppled him, but it also shattered the state.
Right, the power vacuum.
Exactly. Chaos ensued. And for most of the last decade, Libya hasn't been one country. Functionally, you've had rival governments, one in the east where Haftar is based, one in the west around Tripoli.
Both backed by different militias?
In different foreign powers, which just fuels the division, the instability. And in that kind of fractured environment, with weak or non-existent state control in many areas, illicit economies boom. Human trafficking becomes a major, if dark, business for some of these armed groups. It funds them, keeps the conflict going sometimes.
So it's a vicious cycle. The instability allows trafficking, and trafficking maybe helps fund the groups causing the instability.
In some ways, yes. It's deeply intertwined. So bringing it back to the people, the migrants themselves, the 700 deported, the 104 found in the warehouse, the 80 stopped at sea. What does all this mean for them? What are they facing?
It's incredibly dangerous. They face multiple threats. There's the obvious risk of deportation, like we saw last week, being sent right back to the danger they fled. Then there's the risk of arbitrary detention, just being rounded up and held indefinitely, sometimes in truly awful conditions, like that warehouse. Extortion is common too.
And the journey itself is perilous, especially the sea crossing to Europe. We hear about boats capsizing all the time. It's incredibly risky. They're caught, really, between multiple dangers: the situation they fled, the chaos inside Libya, and the risks of trying to move onward.
Yeah. This discussion really highlights how these huge geopolitical issues, conflict, state collapse, have such a devastating personal impact, a real human cost. It's just a snapshot, isn't it, of a much bigger crisis that needs our attention.
It absolutely is. And it forces you to think, doesn't it, about
Yeah.
responsibility, the responsibility of nations, how internal conflicts spill over borders, this whole global challenge of forced migration. You know, how events happening somewhere like Libya, which might feel far away, are actually deciding the fate of hundreds of thousands of vulnerable people. It's something we really need to grapple with.
Indeed, a sobering reminder. Well, thank you for joining us for this exploration here on the Global War Watch Network. We really hope this gave you some clarity on a complex and urgent situation. As always, we encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to the Global War Watch Network. It helps us keep bringing you this kind of analysis. And we genuinely value your thoughts. Please share them in the comments section below. Let us know what you think. Also, do connect with us on social media. You'll find all the links down in the description. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, stay informed and stay vigilant.